There's a headline in the Telegraph from, is she called Camilla Tommely, saying that, what's it say, Rishi Sunak's making a comeback. Is she smoking something illegal? Rishi Sunak's not making any sort of comeback or getting more popular in the polls. Rishi Sunak's toast. He wants to be. California, here I come. You don't have two passports if you're going to stay in one country, do you? The trouble is, we're fed utter trash by the mainstream media, and I include GB News in that at times. There's a few presenters like Bev Turner trying to get the truth out, but unfortunately they're hogtied because they're terrified of Ofcom, and so they won't block the copybook, and they're trying to, well, attract a new audience that's never going to turn up, because all they're doing is putting the original audience off. Because the people that saw it as, wow, at least it's their voice of free speech, watch it cover less and less topics every day. Okay, it's really good on cash, and it's covered an in-depth report on grooming gangs. But generally speaking, I think most people would agree that GB News has gone off the boil. I don't watch it as much as I used to, because it's not got the same content, and the way they treated some people like Mark Stein and Dan Wootton and others, faces that they had that they could rely on to draw a crowd. I don't know what the format is or what's going to happen in the future. But when you listen to someone like Camilla Tommely say that Rishi Sunak's making a comeback, I just think, are you smoking something illegal? Have your head on pot? He's not making any comeback. If you want to know what Rishi Sunak's doing, he's tanking support. Starmer isn't doing much better with real people. I don't know where they get these polls from. The person that's standing out ahead of the crowd is Nigel Farage, because he's the only one talking about the big problems, because immigration... See, people would like you to think that talking about immigration is about being horrible to foreigners, and it's not. Immigration is the root cause of all our shortages, because if you let too many people in, then those people are going to need the resources that we all use anyway. So, for instance, in a growing population, all the time we're growing. I mean, another 350 came in, I think it was Friday, 800 the day before that. They're coming in the thousands. They're being put up in hotels and shuffled around the country to different hotels. Hoteliers can't resist the lucrative payments that they get. Thankfully, one did. John Mappin, a friend of mine who runs he owns Camelot Castle. He's a posh boy, and but he's got a decent attitude to life. And obviously, he voted for Brexit, and he's been a massive supporter of the Reform Party during this campaign. So he's okay. Don't they credit us with any intelligence when they're delivering this news that's on the telly? Don't they understand that actually the working man, me, you, ordinary people can work out what's going on here? We're getting stuffed on tax, we're paying too much for energy, there's no places in schools for our kids. Why would anybody take 5,000 beds off you during a crisis, and why do that on top of the 15,000 they took off us in 2017? If they cared about us, because that you'll never get me away from that point, because if you know the population is growing, and they do, why deplete the beds in a place where they're needed? Because if you've got more people, you need more facilities. So it's nothing to do with not liking foreigners. It's to do with the fact you're sat there thinking, I'm just coming up to pension age. This is how me and my husband think. We've just got mine delayed 6 years pension. I'm just coming to the time of life where I'm probably going to need hospital treatment, possibly. Definitely my doctor, probably more often. Dentist, all the things I'm going to need now that I've paid into a system for donkey's years is getting scarcer and scarcer. That's why you can't get appointments with your doctor. They're trying to change it to some online format. How is that ever going to work? I can't ever see myself bending over with my arse in the air trying to show someone a set of piles, can you, on a Zoom call? Can you have a look at this, doctor? They're killing me. Oh, yes, they're bad. Rub some of that ointment on. Can you reach, doctor? You're nearer than me. No, it's just not going to work, is it? They're trying to deplete everything, automate it. I mean, this is really, really bad for general health. There's people sat here, I'm probably one of them. I'm terrified of ending up in an old people's home. It'll be owned by probably an Asian business company that never visits it, just looks at a spreadsheet to see how it's doing for profit, and run by people who don't speak English much. There's a home a friend of mine is in, and there's only one person working in that home that actually is, she's Polish actually, she's smashing, and she speaks English, but the others don't speak much English because they've come in from overseas recently. Because there's a staff shortage in old age pensioners' homes or care homes, because they sacked 40,000 of them during the pandemic because they didn't join in the rollout. So when they stand in front of these TV cameras getting interviewed, trying to pretend they care, sacking care workers in an industry that's already short-staffed. They were short-staffed anyway. There's malnutrition in British care homes. Malnutrition in this country in care homes. People left in soiled underwear. People getting infected bed sores because they're not turned often enough because there's not enough staff. And they allowed 40,000 of them to go because they wouldn't take a new drug. Now, that tells me all I need to know about care. We don't get any. So this is a charade to me, what's going on now for this election. It's just an absolute charade. And I don't believe anything they say. And there's only one man prepared to stand up and be counted and tell it like it is and have eggs thrown at him and milkshakes and Christ knows what. And that's Nigel Farage. Now, I've said it before, I don't think reform are the answer to everything, but I think change is the answer. You've got to start changing it. And so many people, you see, the Tories have run the country on fear, not just through the pandemic, hands, face, space, build back better, not just those days. They've run the country on fear for 14 years. Their strongest weapon has been to tell you that their opposition is worse. That's all they've looked at. Well, if you don't vote for us, you'll get Labour. You're getting Labour, you need to know it, you're getting Labour. It's just the mix that's at stake. So what you need, what we're really out for now, is creating an opposition. Someone who'll stand up to them. Someone who'll listen to Andrew Bridgen when he's debating excess deaths, because excess deaths will eventually affect most households in this country, because these turbo cancers and these sudden collapses are not normal, and it's only happened since 2022, late 21. So we need people who will stand up for the stuff that matters to us, not the stuff that matters to MPs. You see, their agenda is completely different to ours. We want potholes fixed. We want the country to run properly. We want to get up in the morning and see clear skies. We want to be able to live our lives at our own expense and our own choices. And the government is taking more and more away. Did you ever think you'd see an advert on TV from Esso, a petrol giant? Did you ever think you'd see an advert on TV encouraging people to start using little draggable shopping trolleys? Walk for the weekly shop. I don't know how much these comedians think you buy in a weekly shop, but I'd need at least 5 of them. I'd have to have an entourage. It'd look like Stanley going to Africa with an entourage of people behind me to take me shopping home on foot. The crackpots. And all the time, the squeezing our lives down. Most people sit there looking at the 7-year-old car thinking, I don't go into London, I might get fined. Or the charity worker driving in an old van doing their best to go and pick dogs and cats up. Can't go around, has to go longer routes now. So because she's trying to avoid ULEZ zones. And that's a fact, actually. The charity doesn't know how much longer it can keep going because it'll have to buy a new van to conform to get around London. How is that fair? How is that increasing our well-being? Our animals mean a lot to us. And unfortunately, we don't mean a lot to the politicians. Now, Farage has been fighting this for 25 years in the lion's den in the EU, where they just want total control. And all I see day after day, especially at the moment, because what you're looking at as news being fed to you is just propaganda. And the mainstream channels have so little. You've got to remember, you're pumping something out. I mean, what am I doing here? 10 minutes, 15 minutes? You're pumping something out 24 hours a day. You've got to have something to say. So they talk tripe. And Camilla Tominley coming out in a Telegraph article, looking thoughtful that Rishi Sunak's on the rise. You couldn't put him on the rise if you give him blocked up shoes. He probably needs a pair, actually. I'm sick of seeing him looking over that podium, aren't you? So we're being fed rubbish all the time. We deserve so much better. And the news channels are not worthy of your support, because you can find your news out somewhere else. Here's some recommendations for this week. If you haven't watched the Tucker Carlson interview with Neil Oliver on Twitter, Tucker puts everything out on Twitter. He's got an account you can subscribe to. I can't remember what it is. It's flipping brilliant. To watch those two men, Tucker Carlson and Neil Oliver, chew the cud. Honestly, me and my husband watched it instead of telly the other night. It was so good. Neil talks like we talk. He's an ordinary man, and we can relate to him because he's kind of fearless in a way. He's in the lion's den once a week, every week, and by God, that's an important seat to sit in. Because it's all right, when everybody got sacked saying solidarity, walk out. But then we lose a voice that's coming into people's homes through the telly. That's the important bit. Neil enters the home through the telly. And that reaches people that wouldn't listen to me on a podcast or wouldn't listen to me on YouTube. I spoke to Neil earlier in the week. He was talking to somebody involved in the military. I rang him and my number came up. He must have me in his phone as Chief Gammon. They thought I was some military leader. That cracked me up. I put it on when I was blogging for Brexit on Facebook, June Slater, Chief Gammon. That's my Facebook page, by the way. Don't get mixed up with that clown that's still an imposter. By the way, he's back. Yeah, it's back on YouTube. He's only got one video up I did yesterday on Twitter about being asked to go on GB News. He got one video up. It's called British Politics Uncovered. But he's still hashtagging me. Still hashtagging June Slater, hashtagging UK Politics Uncovered, because that's the only way he can draw people to his channel. I don't know what he's doing it for. He tries to make out he's a fan. It says he's a fan page. He's driving me bonkers. I'm fans of Kevin Costner, but I wouldn't drive him bloody bonkers. I might drive into a motel at night. Oh, don't get me going. No, I am a fan of Kevin Costner. He's like a bit lush, isn't he? For women our age, I mean, younger women will fancy Kevin Costner. Yeah, where was I? Oh, I slipped up there, didn't I? I just went off on one. Politics. It's abysmal. They treat us like we're absolute morons. Adverts showing you how to use a draggable bag to go and get your weekly shopping. Can you imagine some poor woman with 3 kids, maybe one in a papoose on her chest, and saying, come on, trying to get 3 kids in a trolley across dragging a trolley, that's heavy, laden down with a week's shop. They've no idea what they're saying. And the nanny state ads that come on TV, talking about how we ought to do things to save money, trying to sell the idea that the smart meter's for your benefit. Hey, we're not that bloody dumb. We're smart enough to work out it's for your benefit. With Einstein, they have Einstein, don't they, on advert? Einstein sat in somebody's 1950s living room, supposedly like back in time, looking at the future. How smart meters will help you not have to outsource energy. Using our own gas does that, I think. I think you find that's a much quicker method. So obviously I do these little videos because generally I don't like politicians. You can't trust any of them. If you just have that carte blanche and just vote for the best ones that are talking about the topics you want to talk about. And immigration is the root cause of every shortage we have, because immigrants come in with nothing. And this isn't saying they're horrible. I'm not saying that. You've got legal immigration here where they're having to jump through hoops and pay for visas to come and work. That's normal. That's quite acceptable. I don't think anybody will balk at that. What we're balking at is, hang on a minute, you can't keep letting them come in and crossing the channel and putting them up in hotels because some court of law cause an incident, cause a diplomatic incident, turn them down. Austria turns around its asylum seekers in 3 weeks. It takes them 3 weeks. A smaller country, there's not as many coming in, granted. But they took extra staff on. Did we? Did we take any extra staff on to deal with the claims? No, did we, heck? And we've got civil servants still working from home. So the whole show is a shambles, and most higher up civil servants are Blairites anyway. So unfortunately, I'd prefer a politics where you could vote for the leader. Do you know what I mean? You could say, right, just put Farage in charge and have a mixture from each party, and that might be a solution, because I don't believe in party politics, so it goes against the grain for me to recommend reform. But I don't think we've got much choice unless you live in Cornwall, where there's some really good independents. And the big issue here in this game is making sure that you vote for a new face. That's the best way to put it, a new face. Not Tory, not Labour, not Lib Dems, SNP. Good luck, Scotland. Good luck. They've ruined your country. Ruined it. Vote for a new face, and vote for the best new face in your area. And we're not going to get it all right, this, and I'm not sure how much voting changes things, but this is an opportunity to have your voice heard. And we've got to fight it. We can't ignore it, can we? There's an election. We can't just, I'm not voting. Well, you'll get what you're given, won't you? And what they're giving isn't very good, because all the parties, the Greens, the Labours, the Conservatives, the Lib Dems, the SNP, they're all on one tree. It's like, imagine it a funnel. Imagine that's all your parties coming down to this one road, which is a one world government controlled by people that don't even live in this country and understand it. Can't spell Oslo Twistle, that's for sure. So why should somebody who doesn't understand our background and our country have a right to rule it, especially via a non-government organisation like the WHO or the UN? It all sounded very good, didn't it, years ago? But maybe that was just because we didn't have the facility to find out more information. And as you do, you grow. And you can't go back. Neil Oliver said in his interview with Tucker Carlson, have you got any friends left from before what's gone on? And he went, no, I haven't. No, none. Even people he knew from uni. And he was patron to many charities like the Scottish National Trust. No, they don't want him anymore. And I think we're all a bit like that. Well, I am. Not that there's been any fallout, but the trouble is, the time you're together with these people that can't see what's going on or refuse to see what's going on is restricted for you, because they're just getting on with being how they are. But you can't get on with being how you are, because you can't talk about it, because they want you to shut up because you're a conspiracy theorist or you're a nutcase. The last thing I am is a nutcase, and if I want conspiracies, I'll watch the X-Files. Although sadly quite a few episodes seem to be coming true. That's a bit worrying. So we've got to do what we can in these difficult times, and they're going to be difficult times. There's not going to be a winning post, but there can certainly be extra time and a pushback in the game. And that's what I'm intending to do. Now, my copycat's still about. He's still nicking stuff. No idea why. If you can be bothered to report him on YouTube, it's called British Politics Uncovered, but he hashtags my names all the time. His only video up is one with me referring to GB News. That comes up in the Google search. I've hashtagged a load of my videos, so sorry about that. I didn't want to have to do it, but apparently these hashtags are important. I'm 66, I'm no expert on this stuff, so I'm just working through the mud. So thank you again. I've been looking at the responses on threads, and some of you have had a flipping awful time during this last 3 years with illness and people suddenly flaking out and not listening to your advice. We've all got a bit of that going on, and I wish I could say it will get better, but I don't think it will. I think there's a lot of people going to be affected, and sadly their loss will be our gain as more and more people wake up to basically things are changing, let's change them back. We're not going to get back what we had, but we can certainly slow it all down.